Hello everybody, and welcome to this panel discussion on how to future-proof your education and career in engineering, environment and emerging technologies, where you will be given the opportunity to listen to students, alumni, academics, local authority and industry representatives to learn more about engineering, environment and technology education at Trinity College Dublin. So I'm Dr. Sarah McCormack. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning of Postgraduate Studies in the School of Engineering. And I want to start off by giving you a brief introduction to Trinity College Dublin. So Trinity is ranked at 101 in the world. Our academic staff with whom you will work with are inspiring thought leaders in their fields. Our facilities combine the unique charisma of an age-old university campus, which was built in 1592, combining that with 21st century teaching, learning and research opportunities. We have around 18,000 students coming from all across Ireland, with 25% of our students coming from outside the country. Trinity is a research-led university where teaching is delivered by accomplished researchers and is enriched by their discoveries and advances. We are committed to leading global change through education and research. Trinity provides its students with learning opportunities, both curricular and co-curricular, to develop a range of graduate attributes which will enhance your academic growth and prepare you for life after graduation. Trinity has started an ambitious project to expand education and research activities across 3 of its schools: the Schools of Engineering, the School of Natural Science, and the School of Computer Science and Statistics. This expansion is being carried out as a single strategic activity in the area of engineering, environment and emerging technologies, or E3. And that's the focus of our panel discussion today. E3 will position Ireland at the forefront of research in science, technology, engineering and maths, the STEM disciplines, that are crucial for future economic competitiveness. It will educate you as engineers and scientists for employment in existing and new technology sectors, equipping you with the skills and attributes to lead in the creation of new businesses and place Ireland in a leadership role globally for the quality of graduates in these STEM disciplines. So today, to demonstrate the role that Trinity plays in the E3 areas of engineering, environment and emerging technologies, we will start our first panel discussion. So to begin with, I'd just like to welcome our panelists. So we have Alan Murphy, a regional manager from Smart Dublin. Welcome, Alan. We have Tony O'Donnell, who's the Chief Technical Officer from Prezi. Welcome. And we have Georgia Gianni Kopoulo from Greece, who did our MSc in Sustainable Energy. So welcome back, Georgia.
Thank you.
Also, Priyanish Jalan from India, who did our MSc in Computer Science. So welcome back to you as well. So thank you for giving up your time today. And the theme for this first panel discussion is how Trinity is connecting STEM education with industry. So I suppose to start us off, we just maybe first to ask Tony, as an engineering graduate from Trinity, do you feel that how did your education at Trinity prepare you for joining industry?
That's a great question and a great one to start with. And hello to everybody all around the world this morning here and whatever time it is with you. One of the benefits of being a Trinity engineer, I mean, being an engineer is a great discipline to be trained in anyway, because it teaches you all of the important ways to approach problem solving in a complex and difficult world. What Trinity brought, I guess, is centering that problem solving discipline in the real world. And the nice thing about Trinity is there's such a diversity of disciplines represented across the campus and within the school, that you get the opportunity, I guess, to experience all of the different challenges that we face in a changing world. The nice thing about Trinity is, and one of the things I really observe when I look at what it gave me going out into the world, is that the most challenging problems that we want to solve come with a great deal of ambiguity. And by all means, you can go to programs where they teach you the skills and techniques that you might want to use to solve the problems in front of you. But if you want to go the next level, you need to be comfortable with that ambiguity and be courageous in applying your knowledge and your skills. And one of the great things that Trinity's done for centuries is inspire people to be leaders in their fields and to take those sort of courageous leaps into the unknown. And Trinity teaches you a lot about initiative. It teaches you a lot about resilience. It's no surprise that the college is one of the top in Europe in terms of spinning out startups and so on. That entrepreneurial spirit's really at the heart of everything. And if you look at what education in Trinity is trying to do at the moment, and the evolution that it's going through, it's increasingly focusing on that application of knowledge to solving the really big problems in the world around us. So I was very fortunate when I did engineering 20 years ago to come out with what I got. I'm kind of jealous looking at what Trinity engineers who are studying at the moment get, because I'd love to have had a chance to have that formation as well.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, Tony. And maybe just to hand it over to Georgia, maybe just as a recent graduate as well, how did you find that the postgraduate program that you did, prepared you for entering into industry?
I think my overall experience was very good because for my program, at least, the curriculum of the program was very up to date. We had the opportunity to meet with industries, and through lectures, we could see what is like the main research currently focused on. So that was very useful. Overall, I think I gained some useful skills for the industry. So yeah, I think the curriculum is very up to date.
Okay, thanks, Georgia. And Priyanish, what's your thoughts? How did Trinity postgraduate prepare you for your industry? Oh, sorry, I think you're on mute there, Priyanish.
Sorry. Yes, so I did my postgraduate from the batch of 2019 to 2020. I did it in augmented and virtual reality. And this was such an upcoming area which I wanted to get into. And the course was structured like it gave us a basis of computer graphics, then got us into animation, and then provided some industry guest lectures with the chief scientists from Farmray and Huawei Research Ireland. So I think it had good connections with the industry here in Ireland. So yeah, it was quite good. Yeah.
Excellent. That's good. And I suppose then on the other side of that, I could bring in Alan there to ask him. I know that you were involved with the new MSc in Smart and Sustainable Cities. And maybe if we could get, maybe first of all, tell us a little bit about what Smart Dublin is and how you are working with Trinity to engage their students and have that sort of insight into industry.
Yeah. Hey, good morning and good afternoon, good evening. Yeah, so Smart Dublin is a collaboration of the 4 Dublin councils. So we're a local government organisation. And our role is to explore emerging technology as to how our public services could be delivered differently and in a more efficient way. So really looking at cutting edge technology, sort of ripping up the status quo. How could mobility, waste management, flooding mitigation, social housing be delivered differently? That's the kind of thing the councils do. It's a long list of services your council does. So that's what we do. And for us to sort of tackle those complex urban challenges, we need help. We need help from citizens. What do they think about these challenges? And we need help from academia. So that's where courses like Philip's, the Masters in Smart and Sustainable Cities is gold to us, music to my ears, because we get a chance to tap into, I think, like-minded souls of a younger generation that are trying to solve these urban challenges. So on that course, for example, Philip reached out to me to see if some of the students could just be involved in some of the projects we do. I'd say last check, our project portfolio is in excess of 100+ projects across all those different themes I mentioned. So we worked with Philip to try and figure out what topics might be of interest to the students and get them actively involved in delivering some of these projects. So that's kind of an example of an engagement at the project level. We do have some very strategic partnerships through some of the SFI spokes, which Trinity, of course, is part of. So Connect, Adapt, and Insight. We have something called smart districts around the Dublin region. We've got 5 smart districts in total. So how do you deliver a smart city? Well, one way is to break it up into bite sizes. So we have these districts where we have these strategic relationships with those SFI centers I mentioned, to try and deliver and test new technology in those locations. So that's how we work with academia. Yeah.
Excellent. That's very encouraging to hear that that it's working so well and it's so useful for you, you know, in Smart Dublin. So that's really the partnerships that we really like to see emerging. So and Philip, that Alan mentioned there, he's chairing the next session. So well done to Philip on the new MSc in Smart and Sustainable Cities. So we have tried to introduce some new programs, as Georgia mentioned as well, trying to keep up to date and to keep the knowledge you know, useful for what is a changing landscape in terms of, you know, particularly in this space of engineering and the environment and emerging technologies. So it's great to hear a good relationship that's working really well there. So well done to all. So just the next one then is maybe over to you, Tony, again, just that we're seeing a greater focus out there from employers for a different type of graduate. And you sort of alluded to that whenever you spoke initially. What type of knowledge and skills do you feel that graduates need to obtain in their studies?
So we absolutely need people to have the basic, and you know, when you're talking about a Trinity education, basic is a pretty high level of that, but you must have the fundamentals, I guess. So I mean, employers are always going to want competent employees who are, you know, capable of executing the tasks in front of them. But if you look at the trend over the last few years, and it's been accelerated, I guess, with what's happened with COVID, organizations are increasingly running in a more delegated fashion. You know, they're less directive. High performance organizations are less about hiring people and telling them what to do. They're about giving them a target and asking them to find their way to achieving it. So if you look at the employability side of things and what employers look for, you want to see people who have those fundamentals, but have also a demonstrated sense of taking initiative, people who've demonstrated a sense of taking ownership over their own careers and destinies, which is why the postgraduate space in particular is fascinating, because that's really where people have taken a decision to invest in their own human potential and capital. You want to see people who have demonstrated the ability to execute projects as well as assignments, who have demonstrated an ability in those projects to work in cross-functional teams and to collaborate with people who maybe haven't had the same formation as they have, but recognize that, you know, problem solving requires more than just your own internal skills, and people with a sense of curiosity, because we're really getting into a space now where we cannot always tell you what's going to happen next, and you might know the next task or the next goal, and if you're really lucky, maybe the next two. But if you're looking at big projects and complex projects nowadays, it's increasingly difficult to say, here are the 5 things you need to do over the next 5 years to get there. So you want people who have that ability to deal with the ambiguity side of things, who have the ability to learn fast. Trinity has really been at the forefront in the last few years within the engineering school about pushing concepts around design thinking as well. So it's important to understand that failure is okay as well, and to demonstrate learning in failure too. So, you know, when you look at the projects students have undertaken, it's not just show me the thing you built at the end. It's tell me about the journey that you went through to get there. You know, show me the things that didn't work out as you expected and what you learned from them and how you adapt. And I guess with the construction of the E3 program and its genesis over the last few years, it's really about projecting what the next 100 years of engineering education are about. And it's fundamentally different maybe to how we've done things in the past, and it has to be linked to the type of challenges and the kind of projects that future graduates need to work on. So it's a fascinating mix of a program which is actually by design intended to enable students to achieve these outcomes, and creating that kind of environment and mix for them to explore and develop through projects and other kind of things, that broader sense, while at the same time making sure, you know, as an engineer, I don't want people to come out who are amazing at doing all of the project and collaboration stuff, but can't do the calculations and math to make sure that the plane doesn't fall out of the sky. So I think there's a level of comfort that we take from people having the competent part of things, but you can get that pretty much anywhere. If you want to take it to the next level, you need to be in an environment where you're really challenged to develop those other skills.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Yes, of course you need the basics and the fundamentals before you can start on the next level. But and maybe I could ask you, Alan, if you had any thoughts on that in terms of what type of knowledge and skills do you feel graduates need to come out with to enter into industry?
I completely agree with what Tony said there. It's the world we operate in, complex challenges, a lot of ambiguity. Don't know how we're going to tackle a particular challenge. So working in a faceted, multi-diverse kind of team and being able to operate in that and be comfortable with ambiguity is what I deal with every day. And I think you can get that through practice, you know, through courses at Trinity, for example, that just take the students through that journey, and it becomes part of your DNA to be able to deal with that situation. So it's not a prescriptive journey that you're on. I would also add, you know, just to have, well, our world is all about social impact, you know, trying to use, you know, STEM skills to deliver social impact. So if you have any desire to make the world a better place, then you're welcome to talk to us, and that's what we want to do. So I would encourage people to be conscious of their environment. What is the big picture? Be clued into current affairs, political movements, big agendas. That's the big picture. They're the big challenges for us. Yeah.
Okay, and just maybe back, Tony, just you mentioned there about the E3 initiative that we're developing in Trinity at the moment in terms of this space of engineering environment and emerging technologies. How important do you think that is? You know, as we've talked about a lot of the issues that we're faced with today, and what's your feeling on the E3 side of things and the development of that and where that's placed?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, when you think about E3 and you think about, you know, that the world needs a combination of great science implemented by great engineers and probably controlled and activated by great technology. That sounds like a really obvious proposition. The funny thing, maybe 10 years ago when we started thinking, so I was involved in the advisory board that ultimately created E3. It wasn't obvious at the time and nobody had ever done it before. So the nice thing about E3 is it just makes sense. And the idea that you need to bring together those disciplines in order to produce solutions is obvious. So allowing students in their formation to be in an environment which recognizes the fact that, you know, disciplines don't act in isolation, and actually your ability to have impact, and particularly what E3 is focused on is the big challenge space for the world in the 21st century. You know, if we don't get this right, it's very difficult for us to imagine doing any of the other things. So, you know, the fusion of engineering, technology, science to really, you know, deal with the big environmental and other issues is significant. So the program, I guess, was initially from an idea of what does the next 100 years of education look like in the engineering and natural sciences space? And what does that mean from a program and curriculum point of view? What does it mean from a research point of view? And what does it mean from a physical facilities point of view? You know, if anything, coming out of COVID, we've definitely discovered that our insight that standing in lecture theatre or standing in lecture theatres in front of 200 people and doing chalk and talk is not the kind of skills gathering exercise that it was in the past. You know, it's part of it, but you need to have a lot more kind of project spaces and everything as well. So E3 started out thinking about how the future of teaching and learning would be in the next 100 years. And I guess as we were digging into that, we identified that if you're going to have this fundamental rethink of the formation part of things, you should have a fundamental rethink of what the outcome you're trying to solve is. And I guess that's where we came up with this idea of bringing the disciplines together. So E3, when it was first identified as the way we wanted to do this, really was seen as unique. You know, we looked around the world, we looked at programs in leading universities and institutes around the world. Nobody anywhere was trying to achieve what we were setting out to do at the time. Now, I'm absolutely sure we won't be unique for very long, and I'm sure lots of other academic campuses around the world are going to try and achieve the same thing. They may take slightly different combinations, they may have slightly different focus, but I think there's an increasing realization that this is the future way of teaching and learning. So it's amazing to think about it as a continuum from you know, from the beginning of your first year as an undergraduate through to people who are doing postgraduate courses. You know, I did a PhD in the School of Computer Science, you know, and all the way through to people who are working in the kind of centres that we just heard about that are sponsored by the Irish government in that space. They're all interdisciplinary. And it's that formation exercise of kind of interdisciplinary thinking, core fundamental science, you know, in your chosen discipline to give you an informed foundation within that interdisciplinary team. And then a focus all the way through on the application of your knowledge to unseen problems and difficult challenges. And to give you the sense that, you know, your skill set gives you an amazing set of tools that you can project into that space. And, you know, that the mindset plus the science plus the soft skills that you're acquiring, you know, it's an amazing combination. And, you know, the graduates coming through this from each of the kind of undergrad and postgrad streams will be eminently employable as a result, because these are the skills that the kind of disruptive side of industry is really looking for and are craving, and they're not generally available.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. I mean, it must be very exciting then, since you've been involved in the beginning, to start to see the foundry taking shape and, you know, all of the great ideas coming together now. So it's an exciting time to be at Trinity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I suppose maybe we'll go back a little bit. Alan, you had mentioned that you're working closely with the Smart and Sustainable Cities Masters. Would you be able to give us just a few examples of some of the projects that, you know, the students are working on with you there?
Yeah, actually, I think Philip, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we've thrown them all at one, one project, which is around shared mobility. So, you know, mobility in every city is a big problem. It's arguably it's kind of mission critical, a bit like water provision and electricity. If mobility doesn't work, then everybody feels it. It has serious knock-on effects economically as well as quality of life. So there's one of our projects which is trying to promote shared mobility within large organizations. So this involves technology. It involves real life mobility instruments, which are electric vehicles, e-bikes, e-cargo bikes, regular pedal bikes, and it's trying to encourage staff, in this case within the councils, to use shared mobility as an alternative to their private car. And the goal here is that the councils will lead by example. So we will come up with a playbook, a do's and don'ts, that any large employer, even a university, like Trinity College, for example, or some of the big tech companies here in Dublin, can look at this, look at a real life playbook as to how the councils have done it locally in Dublin. There's a huge cultural aspect to this as well. And you know, they might then go, okay, let's do that, all with the view of trying to get mobility in the Dublin region working more efficiently. Imagine if every large employer adopted this kind of approach. So that's one project of the 100 odds on our portfolio, and we felt it was enough for it was chunky enough for Philip's students to get their head around. So they're looking at the operational. It's a kind of a pestle kind of analysis. We'll do this political levers, technology levers, environmental reasons for doing this. There's a huge behavioral science aspect to it. So that's what we hope the students will bring to us. We've a view, and we're living with this day to day as to how we get traction with staff to use this these shared schemes. But the students bring in that kind of fresh perspective. They'll do some international research, what's best practice elsewhere, in particular in Western Europe, because of the cultural similarities maybe. So that's what they're going to bring to the table, and we're really keen to see what they have to say.
Okay, excellent. That's great to get an insight into what they're actually doing on the ground. And in fairness, if they can solve the shared mobility question, I think they're doing well.
Yeah.
We might be a bit overambitious on that, but I'm sure they will help you along that journey. So that's great. And so we don't have too much time left, but I want to just go back to Georgia and Mianish just to ask them maybe. So for all the audience here listening in about thinking about coming to Trinity to do a postgraduate course, do you have any advice for someone that's thinking about coming to do that?
Yeah, my experience overall was very positive, so I would 100% recommend it. And actually, during my studies, I got a scholarship, which was a collaboration with Intel and Trinity, and I was mentored among other benefits. And I think in general, Trinity, especially for me that I wanted to work in industry, can give a lot of opportunities to meet future employers, to get in touch with them, be mentored by different employees for industry. So yeah, and also all programs are very up to date, so you will get a good insight of what is currently happening in each field of technology. So yeah, overall, I would recommend it for sure.
Great, thanks, Georgia. And Priyanish?
For me, I was in computer science, and what I wanted out of this postgraduate program was how to get the sense of collaboration. So if anybody who wants to get into computer science, one advice would be just be open to being vulnerable, because every day the frameworks would change, and you would have new people to collaborate with. So as long as you are open to being vulnerable, to push yourself and try new things.
Okay, brilliant. Well, now that's great. We're right on time. So I think we'll just close up this discussion for now, and we'll move over to Dr. Philip Lawson. So thank you very much to the panelists. That was really insightful from both Tony and Alan on one side, and then from Georgia and Priyanish, just the more recent graduates coming out. So thank you very much for your contributions, and I'll pass it over then to Philip for the next discussion on how Ireland and Trinity can fast track your career in engineering, environment, and emerging technologies.
Okay, hello everyone. Thanks a million for coming today. And so for this session, it follows on very neatly, I think, from the last session in terms of trying to understand recent experiences, really. So we have Carolina Martins, who recently did the MSc in Biomedical Engineering in 2020, and she's a current PhD student, and I'm assuming that's in Trinity as well. And she can tell us a bit more about that in a few minutes' time. Claudia Bailey, who is currently on the MSc in Smart and Sustainable Cities, and then Bira Moore, who is a graduate from the MSc in Environmental Science and now is a technical consultant at FAO. I myself am a geographer, just to bring another interdisciplinarity kind of element to this. And so I am in the School of Natural Sciences, but I am a human geographer. And so in a sense, I'm very interested in you guys. I'm interested in mobility, both in terms of micro sense, but also from a kind of a more macro sense. And so one of the kind of key questions in the last few years overlaps with a lot of the things that you're doing, i.e. the decision-making around why people come to a particular place. And so that relationship between universities, urban growth, competitiveness, innovation, creativity, and so on is really important. And so what I want to do essentially is, and I'll start with Carolina for this, is to ask you, well, why Dublin? Why Ireland? Why Trinity? And so maybe Carolina could come in and ask that. And I'll go around and come to Claudia and then Biram with that same question.
Hi, everyone. So I picked Trinity obviously because of how advanced in research they are. So I'm a PhD student in biomedical engineering, so specifically in tissue engineering. And I knew that I wanted to do something in research. And so Trinity was an obvious choice. Again, Dublin is such a great city to live in as well. So yeah, I was also part of the Common European Masters in Biomedical Engineering. So I got to go to get university for my first year of my master's, and then I came here. So that was also a big plus, that I could also be in 2 different places. But my end goal was to end up at Trinity. And I was very lucky to now be able to continue to stay here for another 3 more years now. So yeah.
Just to actually quickly come in on the 3 more years, and some of the people watching today might be interested, was that set up already? Did you make a longer term plan before coming here, or was that something that came out of your experience?
Mm-hmm. It was definitely something that came out of my experience. So I was thinking about maybe doing a PhD, but it was not set in stone at all. I was looking into industry as well. But then during the master's, I was exposed to so many different research fields in tissue engineering, and I kind of fell in love with it, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I also met my supervisor. He was one of my professors, and the type of research he was doing, I thought was really great. So then the opportunity came for me to stay the 4 extra years, so I took it.
Great. Well, we might pick up on that in a few minutes' time, so I'll come back around to that. So Claudia, the same question for you.
Yeah, so hi everyone. I was really interested in joining the Smart and Sustainable Cities program because my background is in communications personally, and I was really interested in working in an interdisciplinary program that combined the science, the background, the working with people and communicating with people, because I think if anything has come out of the last few years with COVID is that when there's a breakdown between, the science and people, that lack of communication is so devastating. And I think it's really crucial to have programs like this and the E3 program where you can work with people. And I'm one of the students at Smart Dublin as well right now, and having those industry connections to really have the hands-on learning in a new program that's up and coming, that is kind of like ahead of the curve on what's coming next for students in science and students who want to work to better the world. So I was really happy to find a program that really intersected all of my interests and everything that I wanted to do going into the future.
Thanks very much. And in terms of, say, you're weighing up your options of particular places, other cities or other universities, what did you feel, and you've alluded to it in a sense, what did you feel that Trinity might have had that other places didn't have for you?
Definitely. It was really because I feel like some places you can get in a very one-track mind where you have one program and it's your one skill and you don't see different perspectives. And I was also really excited to be part of a new program because I think it's key to be some of the first people going out into the world, and you get so many opportunities and fresh connections and the excitement of being part of something new and exciting in the science field. And that's really what I was looking for. And I wanted to push myself. I wanted to move to it. I moved to Dublin with two suitcases and a backpack and didn't know a single person here. And I think especially what Tony said in the first panel is investing in yourself and investing in your future. Mm-hmm. And I think pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone and going for it and having the great support system here at Trinity is so crucial in developing your potential.
Great, thanks. Yeah, no, I loved that ambiguity point earlier on, and if we have some time later on, maybe we'll bring that back in. So, thanks very much, Claudia. And then Biram, the same question for you. So why Ireland? Why Trinity and the MSc in Environmental Science?
Okay, thanks very much for the question and for the invitation to this event. So my story is a little bit different than the other maybe international students. By the time I joined the Trinity, I was working as a governmental official, and I applied for a merit-based scholarship program from the EU. It was called Jean Monnet Scholarship Program. And even beforehand, when I was working in the Ministry of Agriculture, I was dealing with the policy development in the area of agriculture. And I observed there is a great need of having the expertise in the field of environment and the interface between environment and agriculture. And it's fair enough because if you consider the climate change and unprecedented level of environmental degradation are happening now, this is the case for each country. There's a need of armed experts in this field. So I would say I had decided to go for my postgraduate degree in environmental sciences beforehand to gain some solid background in this area, in this technical area. And then I was granted that scholarship. And I started to search universities across Europe. Mm. And as an international student, one of my criteria was a country speaking in English. So this is a great choice. That's why Trinity is one of the most appealing universities I would say. And then when I searched Trinity more, it wasn't that much hard to be convinced to get in, because it's very well reputable. It has a great reputation, well-known university. It has a long history. And our program offers some great deal of different perspectives of the environmental sciences. And I also came across many advantages compared to the other countries in Europe. And Ireland is much welcoming than the UK in many aspects as well. So that's why I applied for Trinity. And yeah, overall, my experience is also very positive.
Very good. Thank you very much. Sometimes these sort of things about experiences are referred to as the kind of the softer side, whereas kind of, the hard sciences are a lot of what you do, but that experience is so important, and judging one place over the other, language and comfort and those sorts of feelings are really important. So on that note, I'll go back and start with Carolina again, and this question of experience of Trinity and of living in Dublin. So I suppose you're at different stages. Carolina, you're still here. And so just, what was the experience of life in Trinity like? What was the experience of living in Dublin like for prospective students, people thinking about coming to Trinity?
So I started in 2019, so it was right before the start of the pandemic. So I think I have a bit of both the before and after the pandemic experience. So I think that Dublin is a great city to live in. I think that Trinity has so many societies and so many events all the time, and it's great that you can that you have that opportunity. And then also with everything that happened with COVID, I do think that Trinity was one of the universities that really took initiative and really cared for their students. So I was in the middle of my research project when everything kind of closed down, and I was able to actually come back and spend the summer here in Dublin, which was great. And I managed to finish my project. I think that Dublin's just a great city to live in. There's a lot to do. It's a small country, but in a good way. So I'm from Portugal, so I'm used to that. But I think it's really nice because you can travel, you can see the whole country, and it's a great place to live.
Great, thanks very much. And did you live on campus, or did you live within the city?
No, I lived in the city. Yeah.
Okay. And was it hard, to say, for example, to find accommodation initially, or?
A little bit, yeah. It's tough, I think, to find accommodation. I was in student accommodation, so that was a bit easier.
Okay.
But it is hard to find accommodation, I would say. But the on-campus accommodation is great as well. So. Okay,
great. Thanks for that. And over to you then, Claudia, in terms of your current students, so your current experiences.
Yeah, so I've been here since this past August, and I also, regarding accommodation, to kind of build off that, I'm also in off-campus student accommodation, which was the best option that I could find moving over here from the States. And it is just such a friendly city. And again, I didn't know a single person when I moved here, and everyone on campus, the whole group in my master's, the Smart and Sustainable Cities program, we really got close, and we were just ready to, like, because we were all coming kind of not after COVID, but it was still happening. And I think a lot of us had been missing that crucial, like, in-person, just talking with people, being in that collaborative environment again. I really enjoy Dublin. For me personally, it's a great balance of, like, a good bustling city life, and it's very walkable, it's very accessible. And I love going outside, and there's plenty of, like, activities, there's hiking, there's stuff, so many day trips can happen within the city. And I think that's great for having a balance of your academic life, your being on campus, living in the city, and then being able to go out and explore, smaller towns, the countryside, and it's all accessible for you without a car. Don't need a car.
Importantly. And just to stay with you, and just for, I know Claudia, and I know how she works. She's a hard worker, and I meet her most days of the week at the moment nearly, and chat with her. But in terms of, to pick up on what Alan said, so you are one of the students, as you said, who is currently working with Smart Dublin. And so could you describe that experience of kind of, you're embedded in the course at the moment, but then obviously you're out in your work placement a little bit as well. So can you describe that and that connection with industry? And we'll come back to that as well a little bit more and expand from that later on in terms of industry.
Yeah, definitely. So it's myself and 3 other students from the Smart and Sustainable Cities program, and we have been working with the Smart Mobility Hub. And it's really great, I think, because the 4 of us actually working with Smart Dublin, none of us are from Dublin or Ireland. So it's really been amazing to immerse ourselves in understanding Dublin City Council, understanding local government of this place where we are living and learning. And it is a deep dive into the mobility and the accessibility, and we're all researching different parts, and we all come from different countries and different backgrounds, and being able to put all of our skills together and examine the Smart Mobility Hub and this idea of mobility and accessibility is really great. And having the placement and seeing that was a key part of the program was definitely one of the selling points for me to come to Trinity as well, because being able to work in outside of an academic life while still doing your academic program is just building all those connections and increasing your network has been amazing.
That's great. Thanks very much. Yeah, and again, we can talk more about kind of industry and applying your knowledge. I think is a really important part of education, and that's what we're really trying to do here as well. So thanks for that, Claudia. And then Biram, then the same question for you in terms of experience of Trinity and experience of Dublin and Ireland more generally.
Yeah, so I really love Dublin. So I feel really attached to Ireland and Dublin. I don't know, for some reason, I didn't feel any foreigner type of feelings when I was living there. So I had the same accommodation problem when I was studying. I started my study in 2015 and it finished in 2016. It sounds like ages ago. So it was also challenging, I would say, but it was also, on the one hand, another experience. And I was lucky. I found a great place to live. It was off campus, but it was walking distance. And I ended up having a lifetime friend who I shared with. So she's a great person. So I pretty much agree with the other fellow students in this call. So like having this campus and living in the heart of the city center makes your life easier. It's very walkable. And in general, Dublin is a pedestrian-friendly city, I would say. It's easy to get one place to another. And also campus life is very vivid, I would say. Anytime you can find any extra curriculum activities, events, discussions, talks at any corner. So all you need to do is just follow right channels. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't get bored, or you wouldn't, I mean, I was so study oriented, but still I had some time to attend many events and some travels even. So you could do many different activities across Ireland, as I did. I was riding horses every week, and I went up to the Sligo even to horse riding, and it was a very nice experience. So it's very different than the Europe. I would say this is very important. I think new experience. I was a little bit shocked, but then I got adapted, and everything was pretty much nice.
Very nice. So the importance of new experiences is obviously something that's coming across from all of you. I wonder, in terms of your experience of the MSc in environmental science, for people maybe interested in that program who are on the call, could you describe a little bit about kind of the day-to-day, just very briefly, obviously, just say one module or something that you experienced?
I was thinking of this question. So environmental sciences are rather versatile. I mean, it's not very easy to come up with a compact and one package program. So that's why our program offers a great deal of some bits and dots from almost like each aspects of the environmental sciences. And it's up to the student to get deeper and deeper in one specific area, or start to study on a multidisciplinary approach. So this is also related to your dissertation as well. So I would say it was a comprehensive program, and you need to be sure what area you're going to be interested in at the end.
Okay. And so do you feel that when you came in, then you were able to kind of hone your interests and direct yourself towards a particular? Okay.
Exactly.
Great. What I might do actually then is, because it might naturally kind of build on that and work backwards then in terms of this next question. And so through that skill set, so, you know, the third element in this, I suppose, so we have, you know, why you come to Dublin, then how you experience Dublin and Trinity. And then the third thing I'm interested in for all the panelists is the afterwards, you know, so going into industry, experiencing industry. And one of the things, you know, I think that there's, you know, a kind of a keen interest in Trinity, both to develop students who might stay in Ireland, but also to go global and to experience the world from that perspective. So can you describe your experience of going into the workforce, getting a job, how the skills you learned in Trinity became applicable, and so on? So I'll stay with you, Durham. Yeah, sorry, okay. Apologies. Yeah, stay with you on that. Yeah, just to follow on.
So during dissertation time of our study, while I was writing my dissertation, I also applied for an internship program at Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations headquarters based in Rome. And I got accepted, and I went there while writing my dissertation. It was related to their area. So that's why this is how I joined in FAO at that stage. Literally, I would say Trinity introduced me to FAO, I would say. So this is how my international career started. And then afterwards, I've been working at FAO for almost 4 years, more than 4 years now. So, and also before joining FAO as an intern, Trinity itself offers you an international environment. So you can also improve your skills in that respect. Okay. I would like to mention the Trinity support and extracurriculum courses that everyone can easily get and reach. So these options, opportunities also increase your employabilities in any area. So particularly in my case, international organizations, international affairs.
Okay, thanks very much. That's really interesting. I think, you know, from my perspective anyway, there's a lot of kind of useful information there about the extracurricular activities and things that you can find out about for students in terms of the future. So thanks for that. The same question to Claudia. I know you're a current student, so maybe what are your ambitions, and then also how you think kind of your current connections with the industry that you've mentioned might help you in terms of those ambitions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I am on the other end of it, of just kind of starting into my dissertation journey. But looking at that, and I think it is, I mean, with Dr. Lawton and with my supervisor, have been really, really beneficial. And, you know, just breaking down, like, you come in to this program, into any master's program, and everyone has such diverse backgrounds, and you kind of can build off each other and take from some people and learn from others. And I've always been passionate about sustainability, and I think being in this program has really, really brought together my interests of, like, I want to work in I don't have a direct answer for this, but that's what part of the master's program is learning what you're crucially interested in. And I just really want to go into something that has hands-on applications where you're working with people, you're working with a community to better their community or your community if you live there too. And I think working in cities, working with nature-based solutions within cities and building and making those connections with community is so crucial. And that's what I'm looking to do when I get out of this program. So.
Great, thank you. And do you think, would you as kind of just looking more globally, or would you be interested in Ireland? I know, for example, that there is a visa available potentially to stay and work, and maybe again, students might be interested in that. So is that something that you've thought about?
I have. I'm definitely interested in staying in Ireland for a bit. I think it's a great city, and I think it's a great country that has so much potential to be the leader in sustainable initiatives going forward. Because, like, Dublin's a great city, Ireland. It's not a huge country, but there's so much you can do within it, and really make your mark and be a leader in sustainability initiatives here.
Great, thanks. And then Carolina, the same question then, in terms of experience, and I suppose your trajectory is very interesting in as much as you came and you stayed and went on to do the PhD. And so PhD as a form of employment in a sense, but also it's, kind of furthering your skill set and bringing you down a particular path. So I'm just interested to know a little bit more about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice that I can do the two things at once. So continue learning and improving on my skills. And then also the structure is like a job, right? So it's the same. I think it would be very similar in industry, the things that I do day to day. But then I do have my supervisor, I have my colleagues, and that's great as well. I think that during these 4 years, because Trinity has so many collaborations and so many partners, even my center specifically, so Trinity Center for Bioengineering has so many collaborations with labs within Trinity, other labs in other universities in Ireland, and even other universities in the world. So I have that opportunity to really learn from them, and also to see where I want to go in the future. So when I'm done with the PhD, what I would want to do next, I still don't know. I'm still very early on.
Yeah.
But it is nice to already have an idea of maybe where I would want to do a postdoc after the PhD. So.
Sure. And in terms of that decision making, you're in Trinity, you're doing the master's, and then, the PhD presumably became an opportunity. Can you talk me through that, or talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah. So when I would say around, towards the end of my master's, so the supposed end, because obviously everything got extended with COVID, I was looking at some opportunities, and I was just trying to find PhDs. And then it was actually on Twitter that I saw that my supervisor now posted that opening, and it was exactly the PhD that I wanted. And it was a very easy transition in a way, because I just stayed in the exact same labs. I had everything there, and the decision to stay was very, very easy. But yeah, it was just mostly with talking with my current supervisor and seeing how I could make that transition happen. But it was very clear that I wanted to stay here. I wanted to stay in the same labs. I had everything that I needed. So even if the expertise isn't in Trinity, but mostly they are, I could always just go to the collaborations and check if they're in a different university in Ireland. And I think that collaboration aspect was really important.
That's really nice to know. Yeah, I think that kind of thing of networks and building networks, but also I think kind of coming here and then kind of, taking a bit of a leap of faith, if you know what I mean, into another world is really interesting as well. So in a sense, what I'm kind of just interested in, we've got another few minutes left to pick up on Tony. I said it earlier on, I was really interested in this kind of notion of ambiguity, of throwing yourself in there. And I'll open this up if any of you have any kind of thoughts, maybe sticking with you initially, Carolina, that sort of notion of taking a risk, let's say, is there something kind of enjoyable about that, or, in terms of your experience?
I think all of us as international students are always taking a bit of a leap in coming to Ireland. And then I do think that Trinity does place us in situations that we're not necessarily comfortable with, and that kind of take us out of our comfort zone. So specifically in my master's, we had this whole week where we were at NCAD, so the National College of Art and Design, where we had to come up with solutions with medical device design students. So that was completely out of my comfort zone. So I'm a tissue engineer, so I'm much more on the research side, but that was great to get that experience. And now I have those sets of skills where if I do want to go into industry later, I do know what I have to do, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think that Trinity does push us to have that ambiguity and to really understand that there's a lot of paths that we can take, and having those different skills they kind of make us a complete engineer, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the great thing about throwing yourself into the mix a little bit. And it's really interesting to see that brought you in another path in terms of learning as well. So for me anyway, that's how creativity and innovation works. So
exactly.
Sorry to step in, guys. I'm just that we're conscious of time.
Okay. So I think I'm
to wrap up at 11. So I'm sorry to butt in.
Okay. So
but if you want to very quickly that'd be great.
So Claudia and then Biram, if there's any just one word or two words in terms of ambiguity, you think that where it's made a difference, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think you touched on it briefly, is I think there's creativity in all of this. And I think creativity and collaboration are something that you get from Trinity and you get from pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. And I think it's so worth the risk and just to enter that sort of environment.
Thanks very much. And Biram?
Yes, before applying Trinity, I knew it was going to be challenging for me, and it was, to be honest, but it's worth it. So it was totally out of my comfort zone to decide to go on a postgraduate study at the age of 32, when I was the oldest person in my class. But yeah, I survived.
Great. So just to say thank you for that, and to say thank you to all of you. It was really fascinating listening to you. And I'm going to hand back over to Sarah, who's going to wrap things up. A real sincere thank you from me. That was really interesting. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely, Philip. Thank you. And thanks everybody today, the panelists, for giving of your time and really giving us such a wonderful insight into your education at Trinity and how Trinity is engaging with industry and, showing how we can future-proof your education and career in engineering, environment and emerging technology. So thank you to all the panelists. And also thanks to the organisers. There's a slide there now. So if you would like to contact us, if you're thinking about joining us for postgraduate study, you can see there's some links there and email addresses. So feel free to contact us, and we'd really love to help you to come on your journey with us at Trinity. We really hope today has inspired you to become one of our postgraduate cohort. Our postgraduates continually inspire us with their diversity, commitment and academic contributions. The graduates are outstanding and are held in very high esteem by employers. So we look forward to welcoming you into this vibrant scholarly community where you will be challenged to fulfill your potential, both academically and also in a personal capacity in your postgraduate study. So thank you all for coming along today, and I look forward to meeting you all in September, I hope.